Well, this was delayed because I couldn't stop playing Hoi 4 today. But anyways, it's time for my Week 5 picks of the 2020 NFL season. Last week, I went 12-3, which is second best of the year so far, so really happy to see that. And of course, here is the playoffs and the regular season stands right now. The season ended today. In the AFC, it's the Bills with the bye, with the Browns at the Chiefs, the Colts at the Titans, and the Ravens at the Steelers. And the NFC, it's the Seahawks with the bye, with the Saints at the Packers, the Bears at the Buccaneers, and the Rams at the Eagles. Based upon these predictions, I didn't really get to look at the matchups today because I've been busy, like I said, with Hoi 4. But based upon these results, I probably would say it would be the Packers and Bills for right now. But now, let's get into my Week 5 picks. As we start off with Thursday night tonight. Not really, the records are misleading, but I guess if you care about the records, I guess you consider this big, as the Buccaneers are at the Bears for the first time since 2018. The Bears won the last one. The Buccaneers haven't beaten them since 2017, and they haven't beaten them in Chicago since 2008. As the Buccaneers got that really impressive victory against the Chargers. Man, Brady looked like back to his former self. And the Bears, they lost to the Colts. Of course, I'm not surprised, as they're not really at all playing as good for the record. They honestly could be easily 0-4. So, I'm picking the Buccaneers for this. But hey, don't underestimate the Bears, Buccaneers. I mean, there is a reason why they're 3-1. Other teams underestimated them and played shitty. So then, for our 1 p.m. Sunday games, as it's the Rams at the football team, as the Rams won the last game. The football team hasn't beaten them since 2015, and the Rams haven't beaten the football team in Landover since 2014, as the Rams just barely beat the Giants. Ugh, that's not really good, especially with all those fights that happened too. And the football team, of course, could not beat the Ravens, and now they're putting they're benching Dwayne Haskins and putting Kyle Allen in. Of course, he was the Panthers quarterback for most of the year last year. Honestly, I don't think it's going to really make a difference, as the whole team is just so bad across the board, and the Rams are still playing solid, so I'm picking the Rams. But hey, I would not be surprised if the football team pulls off an upset, but picking the Rams. Then it's the big one, the Bills at the Titans for the second year in a row, as the Bills try to go 5-0 for the first time since 1993, and the Titans try to go 4-0 for the first time since 2008. As the Bills won the last 3, the Titans haven't beaten them since 2012 and 2009 when they host them. And of course, remember, the Titans did not play last week because of COVID. They were supposed to play the Steelers. So, oh, that's right, they had that close game against the Vikings. They had to make that comeback. Almost blew it. And the Bills, hard-fought game against the Raiders. And how about that? 4-0 for the first time in 12 years. So this game's going to be close because the last 3 times they played each other, all the games have been close, and the Bills won them, of course. This is going to be definitely interesting to see. The Bills are definitely better, as you can see the stats. Now, remember, the offense and defensive stats are both inflated and deflated for Titans since they had their bye and all. But you know what? Considering the fact that the Titans almost beat the Bills all 3 times because their offense was so bad, I'm actually going to pick the Titans in an upset. How about that? We'll see how they do this time around with a much better team than the last few times they played the Bills. And then the Keystone matchup, as the Eagles are at the Steelers for the first time since 2012, as the Steelers try to go 4-0 for the first time since 1979. The Eagles won the last matchup. The Steelers haven't beaten them since 2012, and the Eagles haven't won in Pittsburgh since 2000. Of course, the Steelers were on their bye last week since they couldn't play the Titans. They had that comeback win against the Texans. Texans put up some good fight in that one, but the Steelers still managed to get it, just barely. And the Eagles, oh man, they barely beat the 49ers, only because they got lucky in that one. Really lucky. See, their stats are bad. The Steelers I find a little bit interesting how, look at their defensive stats. I know it is inflated though, remember, because they had their bye, but even so, the second to worst passing defense in the league, yeah, I looked it up. That's how it is. That's really weird. Oh boy, I would probably say the Eagles, maybe an upset, but I just don't trust them after they finally got their first win last week, so I'm picking the Steelers for this. But hey, never underestimate the Steelers. Eagles, Steelers. After all, you almost lost to them in 2012 when you last played them, remember, when you hosted them. Then it'll be the Cardinals at the Jets for the first time since 2012, as the Jets try to avoid 0-5 for the first time since 1996, as the Jets got their asses kicked on Thursday night, and the Cardinals got spanked by the Panthers like I predicted in my upset. Not surprised at all. But looking at this, look at the Jets. They have one of the worst offense in the league, second to worst in points, second to worst in yards, the worst passing offense in the league. And the defense is really bad. The Cardinals are at least balanced. And the Cardinals haven't beaten the Jets haven't beaten the Cardinals since 2012. And the Cardinals haven't beaten the Jets in New York since 1975 when they literally were in New York. I'm picking the Cardinals for this one. But hey, Cardinals, you've already lost 2 in a row. Don't underestimate the Jets like the Cowboys did around this time last year, remember, and that's when the Jets got their first win. And then a big one, the AFC West, as the Raiders are at the Chiefs, as the Chiefs try to go 5-0 for the first time since 2018, as the Chiefs spanked the Patriots, but then of course without Cam, since my pick, because I made my picks before the update was like not Cam not playing, but the Chiefs still won, so I was right in that regard. And the Raiders, they shot themselves in the foot against the Bills. They had a chance, just couldn't do it. Chiefs won the last 5 in a row. The Raiders haven't beaten them since 2017. They haven't beaten them in Kansas City since 2012. Been a long time. This is important for both teams, because if the Chiefs beat the Raiders here, they'll have a 3-game lead over everyone else in the AFC West. And they've already beaten the Raiders, and they would have already beaten the Chargers. So they would begin to run away with that division, most likely. And of course, I'm picking the Chiefs for this one. Then it's the AFC South matchup, as the Jaguars are at the Texans, as the Texans try to avoid 0-5 for the first time since 2005, as they won the last 4. Jaguars haven't beaten them since 2017, as the Jaguars, ugly performance against the Bengals, as they got their first win of the year. And the Texans, they almost made the comeback against the Vikings, but they just couldn't get it in the end, sadly. And of course, Bill O'Brien finally got fired, as he was their coach since 2014. Now their interim coach is Romeo Crennel. This is his 3rd time, too, being a coach. Remember, he was the Browns coach from 2005 to 2008. Then he was the interim and head coach of the Chiefs from 2011 to 2012, and now try number 3. Oh boy, could he do what he did with the Chiefs? Play good enough to actually get the job? I don't know. This game, both teams are really struggling. But you know what? Maybe with a better coach. Because remember, when Romeo took over for the Chiefs in 2011 after they fired Todd Haley, they actually turned it around and actually gave the Packers their only loss in 2011. And they played a lot better with him. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Texans are going to beat the Texans are going to beat the Jaguars. That's my pick. But who knows? Maybe the Jaguars will get it. But the Texans have beaten them 4 in a row. And since the Jaguars aren't playing that good here, I could see the Texans maybe getting that. Then it'll be the Bengals at the Ravens. As the Ravens won the last 3, the Bengals haven't beaten them since 2018. And of course, that comeback victory in 2017, the last time they beat them in Baltimore. As the Bengals got that victory against the Eagles, their first win of the year. All 4 of their games this year were close, remember. They could easily be 4-0. And the Ravens got the win over the football team as they needed after that terrible loss to the Chiefs. Now, the Ravens should not underestimate the Bengals this week. The Bengals have had close games against the Ravens the last several years. Last year, too, there was like within 6 points. The year before, within 6 points. So when they play the Ravens the last few years when they go on there, they could put up an effort. So Ravens, don't underestimate them. But I'm going to still pick the Ravens for this. But I will not be surprised if they choke and the Bengals get it. Alright, then it'll be the Falcons at the Panthers, as the Falcons try to avoid 0-5 for the first time since 1997. The Falcons won the last 5. Panthers haven't beaten them since 2017, as the Falcons lost to the Packers to no one's surprise. And as I predicted, the Panthers beat the Cardinals to get the record back to 2-2. Kind of like the vibe of last year when they won 4 in a row after they started off 0-2. I don't know if they're going to get that, though. As you see, the Falcons' defense is bad. Just bad. Offense, though, is pretty good. The Panthers are getting quite balanced, too. I could easily see the Panthers win this to get over 500. But you know what? In an upset, I'm picking the Falcons for this. Because usually teams that are like 0-4, they usually get their first win of the year. And after all the problems the Falcons have gone through these last few weeks, and of course the Panthers, they won 2 in a row, but I don't know if they can go for 3 in a row. I'm going to pick the Falcons for this one. But I won't be surprised if the Panthers get it. And finally end that 5-game losing streak. I'm pretty sure this list... There we go, okay, this whole list covers up. Alright, then it's the Dolphins at the 49ers to start off the 4 p.m. games for the first time since 2012. As the Dolphins won the last one, but they haven't beaten the 49ers haven't beaten them since 2012. The Dolphins haven't beaten them in, well, not San Francisco, but Santa Clara since 2004. As the Dolphins almost made the comeback against the Seahawks, but just couldn't do it. And the 49ers, blew it against the Eagles. That was really disappointing. They're definitely having a Super Bowl hangover right now, although statistically they're still playing really good. I'm picking the 49ers for this. Hopefully the Dolphins will start Tua eventually to give him a chance. And then, oh boy, this is going to be ugly. I don't know why they keep putting this at 4 p.m. since both teams suck. As the Giants are at the Cowboys, as the Giants try to avoid 0-5 for the first time since 2017. As the Cowboys won the last 6, the Giants haven't beaten them since 2016. As the Giants, they actually had a chance to beat the Rams in an upset, like I think I warned the Rams last week, but they just couldn't get in the Cowboys. What in the absolute fuck? What is wrong with your team? You have a very good offense in terms of passing. Look at that. Third in points scored. Number 1 offense in yards allowed. Number 1 in passing offense. But their defense is so dog shit, and the Browns just absolutely killed them even without Nick Chubb. Oh my god. I still think the Cowboys are going to win the NFC East only because they have Dak and that offense. Because everyone else in that division is so bad. At least the Cowboys have something good. But that defense needs to be badly fixed. This is legendary incompetence. And Dak is being forced to throw the ball so much. I actually looked up earlier because he's leading the league in passing yards, almost 1,700 yards. If he keeps it up at his rate, he'll pass for almost 6,800 yards, which would shatter Peyton's record in a landslide. Now, that would be incredible, but that's not good. They need to fix that defense. But I'm picking the Cowboys still to win this. You better win that. Oh, God, if you actually lose against the Giants, that would be embarrassing. Then we get to the big matchup in the AFC as the Colts are at the Browns for the first time since 2014. As the Browns haven't beaten the Colts since 2011, and they haven't beaten them in Cleveland since 1988. As the Colts got that victory against the Bears to no one's surprise, although they probably should have played a little bit better in that regard since the Bears suck. And the Browns, that was a costly victory. You almost choked it against the Cowboys, but you destroyed them in the end. But that's going to hurt not having Nick Chubb, especially when you have the number 1 rushing offense in the league. Your defense is bad. But if you look at the stats, both teams are kind of inversed. The Colts have one of the best defenses in the league. The Browns, they have a good run, number 1 rushing offense. Their defense, though, is kind of like middle in the pack, though. But the Browns' defense, other than a rushing game, is bad. Colts' offense, kind of mediocre. This one is very difficult to decide going into the week because I thought it could go either way. But without Nick Chubb for the next 6 weeks, and I don't trust the Browns offense against the Colts defense, and I'm not sure if I fully trust the Browns defense to shut down the Colts offense, I'm just going to barely edge out for the Colts. Maybe if Nick Chubb was in, maybe I would give it to the Browns, but I can't really see him going 4-1. Alright. Then it'll be the Broncos at the Patriots for the first time since 2014, as this game was flexed in for God knows why. No idea why. As the Broncos haven't beaten the Patriots since 2015. The Patriots have won 2 in a row. They haven't beaten them in Foxborough since 2006. So the Broncos got the needed victory over the Jets last Thursday night. And the Patriots, of course, not having Cam hurt, but I'm sure they were going to lose to the Chiefs regardless. As the Patriots bad... Oh, that's right, I don't think Cam's starting this week either. So, that's not good for them. But luckily for them, they're at home against a bad Broncos team. So I'm going to pick the Patriots still to win this one. Alright, so then we get the Sunday night. I don't get why they didn't flex this out and put Colts at Browns in instead. As it's the Vikings at the Seahawks for the 3rd year in a row. As the Seahawks try to go 5-0 for the first time in their franchise history of 44 years. As the Seahawks won the last 5, the Vikings haven't beaten them since 2009 and 2006 in Seattle. As the Vikings got that needed victory over the Texans, just barely, they almost let them make the comeback. And the Seahawks, that was the concern I had throughout the last year or so. You have Russell Wilson, but other than that, what else do you have? You just barely beat the Dolphins. And if you play a really good team like the Vikings, well, not really a good team like the Vikings, but I mean to say a good offense, that could be trouble for them. Because remember, last year's game, too, was offensive as hell, too. I could see it happen tonight, and of course, since both teams' defenses are so bad, but if it's going to be an offensive shootout, it's going to come down to who do you trust more, Kirk Cousins or Russell Wilson? I trust Russell Wilson more, and since they won 5 in a row, so I'm picking the Seahawks for this. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings somehow get the upset. And then for Monday night, which I still have no idea why they picked this, as the Chargers are at the Saints for the first time since 2012, as the Chargers haven't beaten the Saints since 2004, and they haven't beaten them in New Orleans since 1997, as the Chargers had that close offensive game against the Buccaneers, but Brady beat them in the end, you just couldn't stop them, and the Saints, they almost started to choke against the Lions, but then they came back to get back to 2-2, so salvage their season so far, as they need a win here to keep up with the Buccaneers. A win and a Buccaneers loss, and they take the lead in the NFC South again. So, seeing how the teams have been playing these last few weeks, this could be an offensive shootout, maybe. That would be interesting to see. But I'm going to pick the Saints for this one. But I wouldn't be surprised if they choke it again and let the Chargers get it. So those are my picks for Week 5. I cannot wait for Buccaneers at Bears tonight. These are my picks. Buccaneers over the Bears, Rams over the football team, Titans over the Bills, Steelers over the Eagles, Cardinals over the Jets, Chiefs over the Raiders, Texans over the Jaguars, Ravens over the Bengals, Falcons over the Panthers, 49ers over the Dolphins, Cowboys over the Giants, Colts over the Browns, Patriots over the Broncos, Seahawks over the Vikings, and Saints over the Chargers. Boy, my throat hurts from all that talking. So see you guys next week for my Week 6